Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. Today we have a fun roadster 2009 Mercedes SLK 55 AMG that was towed here from Florida. Crazy. What's the customer complaint? Car starts and drives just fine, but he said if he leaves it for more than 2 days, the battery is completely dead. So we're dealing with a parasitic draw issue. So here's a car, it has 166,000 miles and a giant engine, 5.5 AMG V8. This car is all engine. Oh, it does have a convertible top. That is insane that they stuffed this engine in this little car. So preliminary, I got a charger hooked up. Battery is almost fully charged, accepting about 5 amps. So car's asleep. And I did a preliminary code scan. That's what you start with on any modern vehicle. Scan all modules, save the report, look it over. Do we have any clues? You know, if we have any clues in the health report, that's where we're going to start. We want to be as efficient as possible and hopefully find the problem pretty quickly. Alright, let's take a look at the health report. So there are a lot of under voltage codes, you know, low voltage codes, supply voltage, supply voltage, supply voltage, under voltage. That's to be expected. Rear SAM, here's an interesting code. Communication with component H3 alarm signal siren with additional battery is interrupted. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. More under voltage codes, power supply too low, and that's it. So the only code that is interesting to me right now is this rear SAM communication with H31 alarm signal siren. This kind of rings a bell. Remember that Chrysler Crossfire that we diagnosed? I think it was a 2006 or 7. That was the cause of that parasitic draw. So these alarm sirens apparently just expire and potentially could start drawing current just sitting there. So that's what we're going to start with. Let's do a little research on ALLDATA, see where this siren lives, see what fuse feeds it, and go from there. Okay, so doing some research. Alarm signal siren, remove install. Just want to see where it lives. Right here, right by the battery cover. So you remove the battery cover, and then apparently it's right behind a bracket. Here's the connector H3-1. That is our alarm signal siren with additional battery. So apparently it has its own battery, so if you disconnect the battery, it might go off and, you know, set the alarm. It should be fairly easy to get to. Now, wiring diagrams. What feeds the siren? The only thing I could find, it's not a wiring diagram, it's a function diagram. This is the only thing Mercedes provides, OE diagrams. This unit right here, N10/2, is the rear SAM control module with fuse and relay module. And H3/1, there's our alarm siren. So apparently they talk, 8 and 9. I don't know what the numbers mean here. Communication line status. Alarm siren actuation. Okay. So it talks to the rear SAM. So we don't have wiring diagrams, but let's look up the actual layout of the rear SAM control unit with fuse and relay module. There has to be a fuse here that, you know, provides power to this siren. And if you look through here, and here we go, alarm siren H3/1 is going to be fuse F8. And terminal 30 is hot at all times. Okay, so that's great. And fuse 8 is going to be 1, 2, 3, you know, the 8th one in this row if the relays are on the left. Okay, awesome. So right now, let's hook up an in-series ammeter since the car is asleep. Let's measure the parasitic draw. Get a value. Then we'll go to the trunk and measure voltage drops across those fuses, and we'll see if F8 is indeed, non-zero, and hopefully, potentially the siren is just drawing some current. Let's get started. So the battery's right here, and that alarm siren is right next door. Very convenient. And in the back, pull off this cover, rear fuse box tucked away right here. So we've got our voltmeter set up. Let's take a parasitic draw measurement. So right now my battery charger is connected to these main posts. Alright, so we have voltage on the system. So I can disconnect the negative terminal, install my in-series ammeter, and then we'll turn off the charger. We want the battery to be the source and see how much current is leaving the battery in, for the entire vehicle. So the charger will keep the memory alive. It won't wake up the car or anything. We can disconnect this and install our in-series meter. Alright, so that's definitely the negative terminal. Pop that off and install. So the current's going to be going from the positive back to the negative, so we want to put the positive clamp on here, the negative clamp on the post. Make sure that doesn't touch. So right now we are at 2.8 amps. The battery is accepting current. When we shut off the charger, $30 milliamps. That's a lot less than I was expecting. Well, that's interesting. That's almost normal. I mean, it's less than 50. I'd like to see closer to maybe 9 or 10. But 30 milliamps will not drain your battery in 2 or 3 days, unless your battery capacity is already spanked. For example, if this car was sitting for months, the battery got completely depleted, then they jump started it, the battery charged up to whatever capacity it had left, but now after you let it sit for 3 days, 30 milliamps might drain this battery. It might. So how do we test for battery capacity? Well, my favorite test is hook everything up, turn on the lights, and just monitor the voltage. And if in 10 minutes the car is not able to start, then it's junk. So it says 9 of 21. But 30 milliamps is not a bad reading per se. It's a little higher than other vehicles, but I wouldn't get too excited about 30 milliamps. Alright, so now I just got a regular voltmeter on the battery. Let's fire the car up, do a full ignition cycle, and then let it shut off, go to sleep. We'll monitor the voltage when we turn the headlights on to see what it drops to. Okay, we want to check the charging system and then the battery capacity. And these things have no room. It's all engine and no room. Key on. Wow. So, the lights on, high beam, low beam. Let's check the charging system voltage. .3, perfect. Alright, let's shut her down. Battery's fully charged. And we can just leave the key on and the lights on and the high beams and see what the voltage is right now. It's already below 12. And our amperage, just do a quick current measurement. So we're drawing 30 amps. If that voltage drops below 11.5 in 10 minutes. So right now it is 8:20. How about in 5 minutes we'll check if this battery has decent capacity left. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes. We're down to 11.59 and it's starting to drop pretty quickly. So this battery only has a small fraction of its capacity left. So if you drive it every day, you'd be okay. But you know, at this rate, look how fast it's starting to fall. Okay, well, we don't want to drain it all the way. So 11.5 in 5 minutes. Let's see if it'll crank up. I'll turn the lights off. Okay, sluggish, but it did crank up. Let's see how much current it's accepting. So not surprising that the battery is mostly spanked, 14 volts. Let's look at the current going into the battery. $60 amps. So we'll let that charge up a little bit. So it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes to charge up. So, you know, a 60 amp hour battery should be able to provide 60 amps for 1 hour. This thing provided 30 amps for 5 minutes. That tells you that, you know, it has like 5% of its capacity left. You can still start the car even after that 5 minute 30 amp drain, but you know, I'd recommend a new battery. However, parasitic drop. So customer symptoms is after 3 days he can't start it. Would 3 days at 30 milliamps be enough? Would it be equivalent to 30 amps at 5 minutes? We can do a quick calculation, see if that's approximately right. And then we'll put the car back to sleep, do another parasitic draw measurement, see if it's back down to 30 milliamps. If it is, are we going to chase 30 milliamp draw? We could measure some, you know, voltage drops across fuses, but we'll unplug the siren because it's offline anyways. See if we can minimize that to like 10 milliamps. By the way, I was just curious, do we have any draw? I shut the car off. Do we have any draw on this fuse 8? 0 millivolts. So it looks like the siren is not drawing anything at the moment. So let's close the trunk, put this car to sleep, and put in our in-series ammeter. Alright, so we're starting at 0.4 amps. And let's check back in 10 minutes. It's 8:35 right now. Alright, so after half an hour, we're down to about 30 to 40 milliamps. So this car does take a while to go to sleep. See, right now it's 9:15. Okay. Should we unplug the siren? Why not? Let's just do it to see if anything changes. Let me get a light. Our siren is unplugged. There it is. We're jumping between 30 and 40 milliamps. Interesting. Let me try locking the car with the fob and see if, you know, it might wake it up and it might take another half an hour to go to sleep, but I want to know if this value changes if the car is locked and armed or, you know, unlocked. Sometimes that is a variable. Okay, so when I lock the car, it might draw more than 10 amps and I don't want to blow my meter fuse, so I'm just going to keep that on there, the post, and sure makes a good contact. Okay, so now I'm going to push lock. Okay, And now undo that. Now we're starting at 3.2. Let's start the timer. It is 9:20 right now. So about a minute after locking the car with the fob, the drain has gone down to less than 100 milliamps. If you remember before, we didn't lock it. We just closed the doors and it was at 350 milliamps for a long time. So maybe when you lock the car with the fob, the modules time out faster. It's only been a few minutes and we're already down to 80 milliamps. Alright, so with the car locked, within 30 seconds the draw goes down to 65 milliamps, and you saw it just drop to 35 milliamps. Now I'm going to wait another hour to see if that goes down any further. So you can see it kind of jumped up a little bit to 50. It's going between that 35 to 50 milliamps. Is there some kind of telematics module on this thing? Could be. But we just have to give this more time. Alright, it's next morning. Ammeter's still in the car. 35 milliamps. So I think in this case, 35 milliamps is just the way that this car is. I'd like to see less than 20, but 35 should not kill this car in 2 or 3 days. And we proved that the battery capacity is severely depleted from when it was brand new. Now, I talked to the owner of the car and I asked him, did this car ever sit for like 3 or 4 months? Because this battery is spanked. And let's see what the owner said. So I talked on the phone to the owner of the car, and here's the story. The car's originally from Florida, and he said he got a job somewhere in the Northeast, so he moved and he couldn't take his car with him. Well, he parked it at his parents' place, and it was just sitting there for months. They would start it once in a while, but you know, it has like algae on the windows. It was stored under a cover. So it looks like it sat at some point for more than a few months, and this battery got severely discharged, and once that happens, you can never bring a battery back to full capacity. So I told him, if your battery's brand new, it's rated at, you know, I took a picture here of the battery sticker, 115, that's amp hours. Now, in our test, drawing 30 amps for 5 minutes, the car could barely start. What's the capacity of this battery right now? Let's crunch a few numbers and see what a known good battery should be able to last at this parasitic draw. Alright, so I take detailed notes of all our findings. We want numbers and proof of what the current battery is doing and what a brand new one should last, you know. So we had key on and headlights on for 5 minutes, 30 amp draw, voltage drop to 11.5, sluggish crank. So let's say in 10 minutes this thing would be completely spanked. 10 minutes at 30 amps. That means we would only draw, you know, 30 amps, let's say divided by 6, so about 5 amp hours in this battery right now. Fully charged, it only has 5 amp hours capacity. When it was brand new, it should have 120 amp hours capacity, so we're at about, let's say, 5%, that's being generous, compared to a known good battery. So the battery's shot, that's 100%. Now, what if we replace the battery? That would definitely take care of the customer complaint, the no start after 2 or 3 days, yes. So, at 35 milliamps, let's say, just to be safe, we don't want to discharge this battery completely. Let's say just half capacity. So 60 amp hours divided by 35 milliamps will give roughly 1700 hours. So again, on the calculator, 60 divided by 0.035, that's 35 milliamps, over 1700 hours to discharge this battery halfway, and it should still be easily be able to start the car. And 1,700 hours is about 71 days. So over 2 months, this car should be able to sit and start up just fine. If it's sat for 3 or 4 months, then the battery probably wouldn't be able to start the car and internally would get destroyed. So I told the owner, there's no real problem with your car. It just sat for too long. And you know, there is a draw, and that's normal because they don't expect you to leave the car for months on end. So we'll put in a new battery, yes. Now how to prevent this? Obviously you can disconnect the battery if you leave it for more than a month. Or you can put a trickle charger on it and just plug it in and maintain it at whatever, 13 volts, and then just unplug it when you want to drive it. That's the solution to this Mercedes. So unfortunately for the video, there wasn't really anything wrong with the car except for having a low capacity battery. Now, you might ask, why would someone have a vehicle towed just for a weak battery from Florida? Well, we're still doing real data-driven diagnostics here. We want to make absolutely sure that the car will, it's as designed. 35 milliamps in this case is normal because the battery, 120 amp hours, that's a big capacity. It's not like a little Honda mini battery that would die in less than a month at this draw. This thing should have no issues starting even after 2 months of sitting, as long as you let the battery charge up all the way. So that's it. We'll get a new battery coming, and then might take this thing for a little test drive to make sure nothing else is wrong, and then return it back to the customer. Got a brand new battery installed. Let's give this car a little well-deserved rinse and take it for a test drive. Rinsed off the SLK. Full code scan shows clean bill of health. Everything's green. Amazing. Let's fire this thing up. See how it runs. I'm sure it'll run just fine. Let's see if the convertible top works. Wow. Now we can go for a cruise. Well, this car has 0 suspension and 0 interior room, but at least it's a convertible and it's a V8. Let's get to the paved road and see how it performs. Alright, here we go. I'm not gonna floor it, but jeez, hard to keep on the road. Don't want to do a burnout here. Clean off the brakes. Yeah, I gotta take this thing to the track on public roads. Nah. It drives great. Yeah, this thing's a beast. This is comfort mode. Woo. Jeez. I don't know, it just keeps wanting to bring the rear end around. Pretty nuts. But I think that's it for this one. The customer will be pleased. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.